Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
How's your week been, Zach? How's your week? I haven't talked to you for a month or something. How's your
It's
month
been
been?
ages. It's been such a good month. I do look. Shut up, Rod. I've got one comment immediately.
You don't get to say I haven't talked to you. It's been such a good month.
It's been the best month. Oh my god!
What the hell? It's been a dream.
It's I feel a little bit Formula One discombobulated because again, every single time I watch that AI generated intro, I'm like, some of these guys could be the new Formula One drivers for next year, right? Like, or even this week.
Maybe.
Was that an Argentinian perhaps in that, sitting in his lounge room playing with a F1 simulator? You just don't know.
You just don't know. There are people who have been listening to the podcast for, I don't know, let's say some of them might have been listening all 11 years or whatever, but if you're not watching the YouTube version, at least for the intro, once or twice, you're really missing out. And in my mind, that intro makes total sense, but I'm sure people watching it are just like, that's the biggest mess I've ever seen. Why did you do that?
It's more. It's less of a mess than the F1. Less of a mess than the F1.
It's less of a mess
right now. Exactly right. I've been really well, but not because I haven't been speaking to you, but because I needed an F1 season break, a mid-season break. I really did, and it was nice to come back from that break, fully like a battery recharged, just
fully
yeah. What about you? Have you?
Not too bad.
I mean, you've been king of F1 content.
Oh, that's usually the go. Definitely felt like the first few weeks of the summer break were really, much needed and well used. Not thinking about F1 all the time, every day. But, by the time we came back in Zandvoort, I was like, I am ready to go. And part of me forgot that we had Spa before the summer break. And I was really looking forward to coming out of the summer break and watching Spa. And then it didn't happen. I was like, I set myself up to feel bad, but it doesn't change the fact that I still feel bad.
No, it doesn't feel right. There are a few things about the Formula One season that are meant to be the way they should be. And now I sound like an old Formula One man. First of all, man, I was going to take that in a completely wrong direction. I'm going to not do that. For Australia, it should be the first race. And Spa should be the first race back from the break. And
there should be V10s and 16 races.
16 races, V10s. And I shouldn't be able to be at the track and hear someone else talking to me. And there should be no coverage. The seats should be uncomfortable. And really, everyone should be like, all the drivers should be like 30 years old.
Yeah.
Like
the beers should be $5. What do you think a beer is at an F1 race? When was the last time?
I can't
think of the last time you were at an F1 race.
Don't say it like that, in that accusatory tone. Like, hey, you should be getting all these F1 races, Zach. Pardon?
Pre-pandemic?
Pre-panny.
What was the last race you were at?
Hungaroring, maybe? And they were, you get a slight deflation of price there because they like their beers of a certain price level. But yeah, I don't know. They were probably €5, something like that. I can't remember because it was hard to get past all the Finnish fans at that race, just jugging them in the tent, just like crammed around the bar.
They have to after eating that salty licorice.
That's really salty.
So salty, it's like it burns.
Yeah,
who enjoys this?
Well, it gets tell you what though, it makes great Formula One drivers.
Give me all
what it does.
Give me all the beers. That's what I need.
Them all the jazz.
Well, look, regardless of what a beer costs, and yeah, I mean, the last few races I've been to, I was not in beer drinking capacity, so it's been a long time since I bought a beer at a race. Long, actually.
How much is a flat white at the Melbourne Grand Prix, Rod?
They're free in the paddock, mate. Anyway, oh gosh, that's really going back a long way now. I can't even get away by still talking about that because it was so long ago. It was just ridiculous. Anyway. So we had the summer break. It was great, but we're back. I mean, we can't stuff around thinking about the summer break. We got stuff to talk about.
Oh man,
back with Zandvoort, back with 100 million driver moves. Some good, some pretty contentious. Good racing at Zandvoort and good racing at Monza to talk about. So, in my mind, Monza is going to probably dominate the topic of conversation, not just because of like recency bias, and it was the most recent race. But boy, there was a lot to get into and talk about. Then there's all the driver market, and then there's whatever other stories we've got. Shall we kick into this contentious Italian Grand Prix?
I think we should. Can we start off with this is the best thing for the sport, right? Everyone loves it when Ferrari wins at Monza, and I feel like it happens. I was sitting there watching the commentary, and they're like, "This is only the second time that Charles Leclerc has won at Monza." I was like, "Really? Well, he's won here. He just wins here every year." And didn't Signs win there recently as well? Like, I feel like they're winning all the time at Monza. They save everything up for like the Italian races, and like, please just win this one and forget about everything else. It's all good. I'm going to Google this whilst I'm talking because I wanted to just very quickly.
I believe 2019 Leclerc won in
Yeah.
Monza, and then in
Yeah, it was
2024.
exactly 5 years ago.
I believe that's it.
But what about Ferrari generally?
No, I think that's it. I don't think Sainz has one there.
Didn't Vettel win there too?
The good thing about Leclerc, and he's having a great year for win-wise, because he's from Monaco. He only goes and wins that one. He drives for Ferrari. He only goes and wins Monza. I mean, if there's two that you want to win.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so here are your race winners, Rod. Let's go back to for Monza. 2017, Lewis Hamilton. 2018, Lewis Hamilton. These are in drivers linked. This is a really bad way to do a list. And then we have Charles Leclerc in 2019, and then we get where's Mr. 2020 on this list?
Nothing in 2020. It was a shutdown.
Of course.
Go there. And then 21 is Gasly, right?
Yeah, that would make sense for
22.
Is that right? Yeah.
Did Ricciardo win there as well?
No. No.
We're good at this.
Oh yeah, here it is. Now we've got a better list. Yes. Pierre Gasly 2020, Ricciardo 2021.
There you go.
Max Verstappen 22, Max Verstappen 23.
Okay.
Charles Leclerc. So I mean, maybe it's just vaguely Italian teams that I'm thinking of. AlphaTauri winning it. I feel like it's not that. It's very special, and I know I've got
It is very special.
It is very special when they win it, but it's not. Doesn't seem like the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, this just never happens ever. It happens all the time now. By all the time, I mean once every 5 years.
Once every 5 years, yeah. We had the Monza ferry, the Tifosi ferry, the Teferi visited and sprinkled its little magic dust on everybody to grant us a Ferrari win. And now, that signals another 5 years of winter. So
that's it.
Amazing scenes, like incredible scenes. Like, I mean, we talk about when Lewis wins in Silverstone, the scenes, but I mean, these scenes here, they might have outscened Silverstone.
Because they all sing the song, right? They all sing the national anthem.
The song, the national anthem?
The song. They all sing that song, the Italian sports song. Everyone loves that part. We all love the second half of the Italian.
I was thinking that if I went to that race, and I know you've been to that race, I was thinking, should I actually maybe learn that song? Like, not Italian, but learn that song just in case. Because if you get the opportunity and everyone's singing, don't you want to sing along?
Well, just ask Charles Leclerc. He's standing on the podium singing along. He's not Italian.
Doesn't he speak Italian?
Yeah, but you don't just sing.
He speaks every
national anthem. If you're on the podium, why would you sing? Would you? Now, Rod, this is a big question. Should you be singing somebody else's national anthem when you're standing on the podium celebrating their? Is you celebrating their country? I suppose. I don't know.
You're
it
asking,
feels odd to me.
The question, just to be clear, the question you're asking is if you're a Ferrari driver and you win at the Monza Grand Prix,
but you're not Italian,
is it okay? Should you be called out and cancelled for singing the Italian Grand Prix? No. Just think about that question that you're asking.
Look, people come here for hard-hitting political questions. Okay, there's lots at play here.
Yeah, he should be cancelled. He should have his passport revoked.
Reverse it out. Would the team be angry at him? Do you think Fred Vasseur is like, now, Charles, it was a brilliant race. We really love what you did up there. But didn't sing the national anthem, though, at that time. That's a shame. It's a real shame. We might have to make sure that Carlos gets the next week.
We have some new upgrades.
Yeah.
And some new strategy codes that we need to inform you about. Special new engine mode for you.
We've got this new wooden steering wheel.
Just like a mouth opening and singing, but there's a line and a cross through it. Engine mode F for fail. Yeah.
Well, let's get on to why this was good, though, right? Because about 2/3 of the way through the race, it was like, talking about this Ferrari team doing a one-stopper, and it doesn't. They are really far in front. Surely they won't pull it off. The tires, Rod, these tires, as we're being told all day, once those hards they drop off once they got a little bit of graining, that's it. You can't drive on them anymore. But maybe that fresh new surface at Monza meant that those tires lasted just a smidge longer.
Maybe. I mean, Monza is usually a one-stop race. And I mean, if anything, I heard that the new surface might have meant that they were wearing the tires more, which is why everybody had to go for 2 stops. I don't know. Asphalt. I'm not an asphalt man. What am I?
No.
What do I look like? I lay roads for a living? Come on, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah.
These hands are soft, baby. But look, all I know is most people had two stops, and I know that there's another Ferrari driver, for example, who did a 1 stop and had fresher tires than Leclerc, I'm pretty sure, and he struggled badly. So the thing that I heard, the commentary that I heard that resonated with me was it wasn't luck that Leclerc won the race. It was great driving because he made he brought his tires back to life. He just decided my tires will not wear, so they didn't.
Yeah, brought his tires back to life.
Exactly. And so and therefore, I mean, of course he was a worthy winner either way, but all the more worthy because if he had just driven any differently or had less skill, I guess, he might not have won that race. So, it was a real Monza miracle.
Real Monza miracle. I really think that being at the front with that free air really helped that strategy. I don't think it worked as well for SCENES because he was never in clean air. I think Charles just kind of got to race the way that he wanted to. And I suppose when we see Max do this all the time when it's like, oh, someone might catch him in the last lap and it looks like he's being caught. And then it's really, he's just holding onto his tires. And I think that's what Leclerc did for those last 10 or 11 laps. Once our man OP had gotten through the traffic and done the overtakes in the it was kind of like, oh, okay, well now he'll just get after him and he'll make up. And then the maths just stopped mathing. When it started getting out to 1.5 seconds a lap, there was just no way. And that's a really short track. Like it was just, there's not enough gains to be made there. And so, yeah, it's
amazing.
It's a
I mean,
shame
like
for McLaren, but amazing for Ferrari.
We had the heartbreak for George Russell at Spa when he pulled off this exact strategy, except then got disqualified. So, I mean, not that I was like, oh my gosh, what if Leclerc gets disqualified? That thought never even crossed my mind. But it was proven in recent history that kind of strategy could happen. I was also reminded very much of how many times I've been calling for a greater offset between the tires because you get more amazing race strategies like this and just opportunities for people to throw something different and actually potentially be rewarded. So, I just thought it was just great for Formula One to have that. It's really set up the year so nicely. Someone pointed out today that there's been 16 races, 7 wins for Max Verstappen for Red Bull,
I heard of him.
3 for Mercedes, 3 for McLaren, 3 for Ferrari. All of those teams have had at least 1 win for all of their drivers. I mean, that's unreal. This season fucking kicks ass.
Yeah, and it wasn't shaping up like that. Like after the first few races, like, oh, damn, this is it. We're going to be here in the Verstappen.
It felt like that.
Well, but it just...
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I was going to say we'll come to that. But the first race of the year, Max Verstappen winning by 22 seconds or whatever. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go again. But we'll get later to another driver that's been dominant.
Yeah, but there's one team as well that jumped out when you said that, when you ran down those team wins, which is Mercedes, which I think they've almost surprised themselves. Maybe by the times they've won, they've been like, oh, where did that come from? Could we be more consistent at all? And I would almost think that looking at the constructors' standings, and I'm sure we'll come to those in a bit more detail, that Mercedes kind of would think, okay, well, that's 292 points. This is good. And then surely puts us in second or third, but no, it definitely doesn't. And I don't really think of Ferrari as having this amazing season, but there they are in fourth, and everyone kind of talking about that. Oh, McLaren's only 8 points away from Red Bull, but it's just tied at the top there. 446 down to 407. It's not a huge jump. Maybe these number 2 drivers are actually going to play a pretty strong role over the next little period.
Yeah, you might even say that if your team wants to win the Constructors' Championship, they need both of their drivers to be performing.
Exactly.
Well, look, I mean, I did want to, because the race was 24 hours ago, or less than 24 hours ago, and a lot of the discourse online has not been about Charles Leclerc winning Monza, which I think is a shame, but also that amazing story, the positive vibes that brings. A lot of the vibes of, this will surprise you to know, they've been actually pretty bad, talking about all the negative things. So I did want to just take a moment to enjoy for a minute, just give ourselves a couple of minutes to enjoy it, because I think it's really great. That said, are you ready to ruin the vibes and absolutely smash
Was that our moment?
the positive atmosphere?
Yeah,
And
please
switch
smash it. I'm ready. Switch
McLaren.
gears. Put it in reverse.
So I'm really tired today because I sat up late watching qualifying on Saturday night and then sat up for an hour and a half watching the race last night and then sat up for another 3 hours arguing with people online about how wrong they were about
Discussing
the McLaren.
people online. Rod, you were in a discourse. This is not
I
arguing.
was prompting like engagement.
Just getting the impressions. Tell me what's your problem, Rod? Like why would it know? You know what? Tell me what you think the temperature of the market is. Why would people be annoyed here? Is it because Oscar Piastri kind of pushed his way past whatever that other guy's name is?
I don't even remember his name.
I've forgotten what his name is. Is it because Wednesday worked out that they couldn't maybe win, that maybe they should just swap those drivers over and take away that second position from Oscar and give it to Lando, even though he wasn't very fast yesterday, during the race, so that he could more effectively chase down Max Verstappen, and they would have got the same amount of points for the constructors as well. Is it that the commentary team is all British and they just really care about Lando Norris trying to maybe win a championship?
Oh, you're getting somewhere. You're getting somewhere there. You're getting somewhere there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people online who seem to be very, very angry at McLaren, mostly pro Lando Norris. And about half of those people are like, this is outrageous. The team should be supporting Lando Norris at all costs, and he should be being gifted wins. And the other half of the people are that, but they also write these like 3 or 4 paragraphs of justification, then they just say that at the end. That Lando Norris should just be gifted this on a silver platter, and he's entitled to a championship. He just is entitled to it.
Yeah, I think that maybe the markets, the people might have this wrong, that they all thought that Lando Norris was Lewis Hamilton, but he's actually Nico Rosberg.
What?
And then
That's a big call.
And then Oscar Piastri is Lewis Hamilton. Come later to the team. Let the team come up. You got to see the team through the hard times. And then once the car starts getting really good, you get a really great driver who's going to go deliver you a championship. And maybe that driver's going to be Oscar Piastri.
Mate, look, well, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, if you only followed our Threads account, and which is mostly me posting, by the way, if you didn't know. If you only followed that, you might think...
I don't respond to myself.
Well, good. You might think completely like Aussie bias, of course, absolutely. Pro Oscar, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, I think that Lando Norris is a brilliant driver, probably even a little bit better than Piastri overall.
Yeah. I was being ghosted.
Has had a great year. Yeah. Is in a great car. Every bit deserving. Like, I want to see him take it to Max in the championship. Sure. Of course I want that. The two things that seem to be going on is, number one, all the Lando Norris fans are aggrieved about what happened in Hungary still. So if we need to relitigate that, I'm happy to. Because Lando Norris was not the victim in that race. I'd have to remind them all. He was the villain, not the victim. So anyway, there's that. But they can't get over that. The other thing that they can't get over is we just want to beat Max Verstappen. We want anybody except for Max Verstappen to win. And Lando Norris is winning. So that seems to be like what's stirring a lot of this on. And I said as well, like I said before, we started the season with Max Verstappen winning a race by 22 seconds. And then Lando Norris goes out in Zandvoort, absolutely sets the friggin' track on fire, and wins the race by 23 seconds. And all of the little YouTube thumbnails and headlines were like a statement of intent from Lando Norris. This is it. As if like this is the charge. And I feel like everybody convinced themselves 2024 World Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris. And it's like, well, but just hold on a second, because that was Lando Norris's second win. Not just this year, not in his whole career, in his whole life. He's won 2 races. And the other one he won because of a safety car, if you remember. Now, he's had other races where he was very close and probably should have won. Again, Hungary doesn't count because that was a mulligan from the team, but he wasn't racing Oscar wheel to wheel and got in front of him on merit. He got in front of him through the team advantaging him with the pit stops. So look, yes, it was an impressive win from Lando in Zandvoort, but it's just he's not the kind of driver who has proven that everybody else should get out of his way and just let him through and let him win. Like he just hasn't earned that. He just hasn't.
No, but in the minds of McLaren fans and Norris fans, he has. He's been there for years. It's now his
That's their
time.
problem.
I know that's their problem, but the sport is built on fandom, right? That's the only reason it exists, is for people to get behind the drama of the racing, and it's good that people have strong feelings about why they think that their guy wearing that color clothes should do that thing, right? And why he should be the guy. It's tricky. I think it's always tricky with Formula One drivers, especially because I think we pick our favorites a lot of the time, and then when it comes down to it, there's so many things outside of their individual control that makes it tricky. Like it's really easy to become aggrieved as a fan, but then also they're highly stressful situations, and you don't like your idea or ideal driver or your idea of a driver to be challenged by like the way they react in those stressful situations. So, Norris in the post-race interview yesterday, they're like, disappointing. How do you feel about Oscar? And he's like, he had a great race, and congratulations to him, or whatever he said. And it was like snark up to 95%. Like, yeah, I'd be annoyed about that too. And Oscar was like pretty bereft as well. He was just like, oh, really sucks. Like that was really rough and bad. But I don't think people really like looking at the fact that Norris can be a bit, a bit gruff and a bit direct and a bit annoyed, and like he's a bit of a killer. Because he's young, fun, like, I'm the original streamer. Like, guys, get behind me. I'm fun and cool. And actually, he's just a bit like, I want to kill all of these guys and win this in Formula One championship. Like, I'm a real, like, I'm not that fun all the time because now it's important. Now there are stakes. It's not just, wow, we finished in the points. We're on the way up. It's like, oh, I'm actually in the fight for this
another podium. Like,
and we really, and we really see it we really see these drivers for what they are. And I think that if you're going to draw a direct comparison between him and Oscar Piastri, Oscar is just like so calm and so bland and so focused. Yeah, it's almost to a fault, right? That he's a bit dry. I mean, in humor and in personality.
Oh, extremely.
He's
but also maybe
thing.
catches you unawares when he pulls a move, say around the outside of turn 4.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that, and that was pretty clean and good on the McLaren drivers for keeping it. For keeping it all good, but it definitely caught Lando unawares. Like he was just like, "Oh God, he's next to me, and I can't even. If I turn in now, it's game over for both of us, and then I'm going to get, a real talking to from Daddy Brown. And I don't want that." And then it was done. Like he couldn't get near him for the rest of the race.
Yeah,
which obviously shows that Oscar Piastri is the best driver in the world right now. Duh.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You try and point out to Lando Norris fanboys and girls. Maybe Lando should be driving better, and if he's so great and if he deserves the priority, treatment by the team for the championship, then why is Piastri driving over the top of him like that? It's like, it's like, well, what? I mean, he outdrove him. He just outdrove him yesterday, and there's all this talk on the radio about what is it, Papaya rules, Papaya racing, whatever that was, and they were like pressuring McLaren Daddy to say like, what was that about? And Zach Brown was like, look, it means that they can drive. They have to be fair. They can't take each other out. The typical rules of engagement that most teammates have when they're in this kind of situation. But they were like, but what was the agreement? What was the agreement before the race? He's like, the only agreement they had was that they would fan out at turn 1, not let anyone else pass, just form a big McLaren block for turn 1. Once they got through turn 1, it was racing time. I mean, remember, like Papaya Racing, there's racing right there in the name. You got to race.
Exactly.
It's not Papaya follow Lando home for a win. It's like, get out there and race, boys.
That's right. And I think that they're probably learning, and all teams, Ferrari's been bad at this for ages, right? Of the trying to work out, well, we want the drivers to race and we need to keep 2 good drivers happy. It's the problem when you have no clear number 1. You could argue Ferrari does now because they're dumping Sainz, but, for the last couple of seasons, they haven't really had a clear number 1.
Yeah.
McLaren have struggled with the same problem as well. And so how do you keep 2 drivers happy who are both going for the win or both going for a podium or both going for better points, who both are pretty competitive? Like, there's no clear, other than, I think you're right. I think the Norris is a better driver at this point in their careers. He's more experienced, definitely. But on his day, Oscar's going to beat him like we saw yesterday. But at what point does the team go like, we really need to work out how to get these guys both home but happy with the result, but we also need to win this race. And I think if I think back to maybe how Mercedes used to manage these things, they would have split the strategies. There is no way that if this was Hamilton and Rosberg, that either of those drivers would have been happy being on the same strategy as the other guy. Like, could you imagine Hamilton and Rosberg?
Yeah, they used
Rosberg
to always
would have
call
said,
for different strategies.
I will have the other strategy then.
Yeah.
Like, whatever he's doing, I want the opposite of. Like, I will go long. Like,
or if we've determined that one strategy is the best and I'm leading, then I want the best strategy, and you can't give the other guy the other strategy. That was the other thing. It was exactly like, you can't split us, because then that's not fair, because then that's not the best strategy, because what if he wins?
Yeah, exactly. But so we didn't get any of that, though. Like, we didn't hear anything about it, I don't think, as far as I can tell. So,
I don't think either of the McLarens could have one stopped. So that's really the question. I mean, and they asked them both, do you want a one stop? And they were both like, oh, no, thank you very much. Thanks for asking, but no, I'm not interested in that. So they didn't want a one stop, so that's fine. That's their choice. The other thing is, again, after Hungary, not to go back to that, I know all the Lando Norris people are like their faces are turning red as I mentioned Hungary, but they were crying out, don't let these guys drive. What are you doing? Why is the team interfering? When what they really mean is the team shouldn't interfere unless it's interfering in Norris's favor, because there's nothing fairer than let them drive, let them race, let the best man win. There can be no arguments after that.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's what they do, and then no one's happy.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't think
they're like, let them drive. Like, no, we didn't mean that. We didn't mean let Oscar win.
Not in this way. Yeah, I don't think it's getting in the way for McLaren. I think I've been exceptionally impressed by McLaren over the last few seasons. Like, they really have gone incremental improvement. There's no big blow-ups. They've got great talent all over their organization, and they've just been getting better and better and better. To consistently be beating the Mercedes Works team as well is pretty amazing. And I don't think that I would say that Zach Brown is unflapped after this weekend. You're like, well, this is just how racing goes. 2 and 3, wish we'd gotten the win. We'll come back next week and and it helps because it's consistency, right? I don't think either driver walks away from this weekend being like, God, I might never win a race again. That was my one shot. And I don't even think the driver's that perturbed. I think that the fandom is getting more upset than Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris. Lando's probably sitting there being like, fuck, I'd really love to be able to win this world championship. Those 3 points would have been really good. And if it was for the win and second, maybe he'd even be more annoyed. But this is just second and third. So he's like, well, I'll come back stronger next week. And Max finished pretty far down. I think people are making out the stakes to be way higher than they actually are. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, part of I think why people are not taking it so well is especially because Red Bull were nowhere this week, had no pace. Not just Perez, but Verstappen just had no answer for anything, qualified badly, and then just went kind of nowhere in the race. And they saw that as the big opportunity for Lando. And these are exactly the kind of opportunities that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Lando, take it.
I worked it out, and lots of people have worked it out. Oh, Lando has to win every race, and even if Verstappen finishes second, but if Lando gets 5 fastest laps or whatever, everyone did all those combinations. It's a totally different, formula if Lando wins, but Verstappen is 8th compared to second. Yeah. Totally different. And I get all that. But, there's actually a lot going on if you look at the championship, and you could say this is the point I was going to say before, was I don't think McLaren really did anything wrong. You could look at them as like, oh, you lost the win 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2. That's a bad call. It's like, I don't think it is a bad call. I think they got unlucky. I think Leclerc did very well and got a little bit lucky. Got very lucky and did a bit well. But I don't think they're walking away with any negatives, really. Yeah.
I don't think they would have
raced to finish 1 and 2.
Have raced this race any different. Right? I think if you'd asked them, what would you have done differently, they might have just gone like, I probably would have just done exactly the same thing again.
Probably.
They got lucky in some points as well. Drivers didn't crash at the start.
Yeah.
Got away with it.
There have been races where, especially Piastri's strategy was pretty junk and he paid the price for it. So it makes it it makes it hard to look through all of the races and go, oh yeah, but look, Lando won this one and where was Oscar? Like P4. Like, well, yeah, because the team strategy was no good for him that week. Or, there's races where Oscar was on the podium and, Lando's back in sort of 4th and 5th. And it's like, well, they're both driving good years. They both had moments of brilliance and races where they struggled. That'll probably continue too. So it's hard to say, well, the championship is up for grabs for Lando Norris because he's going to win 5 of the next 8 races and he just needs Piastri to help him in the other 3. It's like, that's junk. That is absolute junk.
Yeah. There's also, when it's this congested as well, I don't think that the maths just works out like it has in previous years, right? When it's like, it's just Hamilton and Verstappen, and we'll just this guy has to win these races, and Verstappen has to come second, and that's how it will work out math wise. It just doesn't get anywhere near that.
It's like, what's that thing? The 3-body problem. It's like, those are the 3 bodies: Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly right. So how are you gonna kind of even accommodate these things, right? That you're somehow going to be like, okay, we just as long as Norris doesn't end up off the podium in any of these races, he'll have a shot. It's like, what did you think? Like, how does it change their approach? How would it change McLaren's approach at all over the next races? Every single race is its own separate thing, and they're going to go in there on race day being like, it's going to maximize the points for the team. Because I think McLaren I think they would be looking at the constructors being like, that's the championship. That's the one to win. That is all in our hands now.
We can look at their constructors because, like, McLaren are on 438 points. They should really, from all rights, have jumped Red Bull this race, but they probably will next race, right? But Ferrari are on 407 points, and both of their drivers are there. And you could argue they're in the second fastest car right now. So they can't exactly take their eye off the Constructors' Championship either, because first thing, they have to pull clear from Red Bull and Ferrari. I mean, all it takes is, a DNF for one of the McLaren drivers and both Ferraris on the podium. Easy. And that is game on for the constructors. And that's the last thing that should be happening right now. So I think McLaren are absolutely right to focus on the constructors, leave the 2 drivers to drive and race. And, this sounds harsh, but fuck the Drivers' Championship. If Lando is good enough, he'll go out and win it. And I hope he does. I want to see him do that. That would be amazing.
He'll need some luck anyway, right? He'll need luck. He'll need Max Verstappen to have off weekends. He'll need crashes. Like, he'll need things to go his way. Like, he was always going to need to win the championship anyway. So,
or if you think you deserve the championship, go and win some fucking races.
Exactly. Well, you can say that to anyone.
Exactly. Well, that's the
whole point. That's the game. It's the game.
That's what the fucking sport is, mate.
Yeah. It's not called Formula Everyone.
It's not. This is what I tweeted. The tweet that got 400 likes or something. You don't get a prize for showing up. You've got to go and fucking race and win.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's tricky though, because if you're Zach Brown right now, thinking about, Papaya World Championship, you kind of be going like, it'd be really good though, boys. Don't crash into anyone to try to win these races, because, like, especially you, Lando, because I know you could go and win this championship, but it'd be really nice if you both just raced really cleanly, really consistently, really well, and just got on the podium for the rest of the season. They'll run away with that Constructors' Championship. Because Perez is nothing.
It should take care of itself. All they have to do is just keep doing that.
If they just run the second half, like this last third or quarter of the season, like they've run the entire season up to this point, no one will catch them. They've got the best car. And I don't see it going away. There's not quite enough time. Maybe by the time we get to the US, there'll be another set of upgrades for teams. And Mercedes is still mucking about with different floors, and like they have for the last 3 seasons, trying to work out what floor, parquet or carpet. We still don't know. And every time they try something, and something goes wrong, and they can't probably test it. It's
like got the swatches going like this one or that.
Holding them up against their drivers, being like, does it match?
Home renovation jokes for everyone. Well, look, I don't know. Any last thoughts about this? Because there's been half an hour on just this. Like, I thought it would go on, but yeah, half an hour. Let's wrap it up.
It's fun. I think it's fun. That's my final thoughts. Is that this is exactly the kind of turmoil you want. I think everybody's got to remember that their Lando boy is turning into a Lando man, and their Lando man might not be the same guy that they fell in love with, who was the punchy 20-year-old who was like, I'm going to make it in Formula One. And now he's a grown-up man being like, all shall bend the knee before me
Yes,
and my desert. I mean, we hated this about Max as well, that he was like he played the heir apparent. Like, I will be a Formula One champion. It just has to go my way. So if everyone could just let me get that done, so because you could all just move out of the way and let me win this one. There's nothing worse than than F1 drivers thinking they have a rightful Formula One championship in their future.
We shall see. So,
like Charles Leclerc once did, I'm sure that he thought that was going to be it. That he was going to the right team, and that he thought that World Championship was in his, story.
I mean,
he has to settle for 2 Monza wins in his career.
There is a certain year that comes to mind. 2 feuding McLaren drivers who took points off each other, only for a plucky young Ferrari driver to sneak right past them and win the championship by 1 point in the last race. I mean, that's in my lifetime that happened.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was at the race on the weekend, amazingly. So, I mean, stories.
He looks so well. He looks healthier now than.
Well, he's smiling because he doesn't have to do like media every day, and
have an ice cream whenever he wants. Do you think? Before we maybe move on past this race overall, Ferrari played a blinder. They pulled it off, but they are maybe not as bad as they have been previously. You might expect Carlos Sainz not to be trying as much because he knows he's out, but I don't think he doesn't seem like the guy. I think it's working. Whatever Fred's doing over there, I think it's starting to stick. And maybe that's helped out by the fact that Red Bull aren't as strong as we're used to. And that the championship's kind of broken up between these let's call it 3.5 teams actually fighting this out. Not speaking about drivers, just speaking about like how involved these teams are. But there's a level of consistency here with Ferrari now that really feels like they've raised the floor, unlike Mercedes, and that they aren't just really blowing up, really. And look, that might not mean they get race wins all the time, but they did this weekend, and they just looked like a grown-up Formula One team, which I feel like I haven't seen in a decade.
Well, they were there. I mean, they were there to capitalize, and I mean, this is the great thing. It feels like from one race to another, you're not sure which team is going to be the one that's there, and you're not sure which of the other two is going to be the one that's challenging. But I mean, as soon as you think, Mercedes, they're out of it. It's between McLaren and either Red Bull if Max is firing, or Ferrari if Max isn't firing, and then all of a sudden Mercedes come through. There's too many friggin' M teams this week. Mercedes come through and they're like not even challenging, but they're winning, taking pole, winning the races, and it's like, it wasn't even factoring you guys in. Where did you come from? There's going to be different tracks that favor different setups as well. So, I mean, whether Monza was just, the mixture of corners and a track that favored their setup, a track with fewer slow corners they may not be as competitive, and I'm sure that we'll see some ebbing and flowing throughout the rest of the year. But that's another thing to keep in mind with this whole hyper-focus on the driver championship is the year's going to keep ebbing and flowing, and races are going to come towards certain teams and move away from other teams. So you can't factor anything in as a straight line. Like, here's the trend, therefore Norris wins. Like, it's just not going to be like that.
No, I mean, look at the next 2 races coming up. We've got Baku and we have Singapore. There'll be crashes there. There'll be stuff that just goes wrong.
There'll be stuff that goes wrong, right?
They're both street circuits, so setups are crazy. It could be really hot.
Singapore pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I wouldn't say I was close to the back, but the weather's been crazy in Europe this year, and so it could just be like it could be 40 degrees in Baku. It could be 22. We have no clue, really, and so. Yeah, there'll be crashes, there'll be weird stuff that will happen to those 2 races, and things will just be totally Norris might crash on the first lap and Oscar might win, and everyone will be like, oh, maybe we should rethink how this goes for the rest of the season. Like, is it over for Norris then? And they should really focus on the the constructors championship. And then we'll get to the US and there'll be new upgrades probably. And like a big enough time difference that, maybe Red Bull would have just been like, we pulled Adrian out of he was on a holiday for the last 8 weeks because we thought we was going to walk away with this championship. We put a couple of drawings in front of him and he drew some squiggles, and now the car's a second faster than everybody else again. Don't worry about it.
I've been doing a very silly thing and listening to the David Coulthard Eddie Jordan podcast, and
Oh,
Eddie
yeah?
Jordan, God, he talks some shit. But Eddie Jordan said a very interesting thing that Adrian Newey's been approached by every team on the grid and 2 teams that are not on the grid to go and design cars for them, which I thought was
We asked him to design our podcast.
amazing. Yeah, I asked him to design my car. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Adrian Newey or with Eddie Jordan for that matter. It's been a little while since we've done a podcast, but right after we did our last podcast, Carlos Sainz confirmed that he was going to settle for Williams. So this really settled a lot of things. He's not going anywhere else. He's going to Williams. And James Vowles got extremely weird with it. Did you see these quotes from him where he was like, it was scarily close to when you're dating somebody, it started over coffee and we ended up going back to a hotel room. And it's like, what? Like, this is just the most icky thing.
Yeah.
Like, just stop talking right now. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. But even after that, so there was more changes. So obviously that settles Williams' driver lineup for next year. Sainz is in. But that didn't stop the James Vowles action, because then at Zandvoort in practice, Logan Sargent went and put his car in the wall and it caught a little bit on fire. People are saying it was a little bit on fire. So he had to jump out and run away.
Yep.
And then Vowles was furious.
We're all just trying to find out
later. A few days later, they're like, Logan, you are out. We're going to be getting rid of you and replacing you with somebody else. And it sure seemed like he was on the warpath and he just wanted anybody else.
Yeah.
It got
First guy
very,
he saw,
very
you walked
funny
in front of
after
him.
that.
You there in the helmet.
It got very, very funny after that, because they were like, what about Kimi Antonelli? And I think that they were like, yeah, but Mercedes want to announce him at the Italian Grand Prix because he's Italian. So we don't want him driving for you, because we want to announce that he's going to be driving for us next year. So and Toto was something like, yeah, we want him to finish the Formula 2 season and just let him settle and then come and drive for us. I was like, okay. And then there was like, what about, I know, let's get Liam Lawson.
Yeah.
And they're like, Red Bull, like, bit of a problem there.
We
because
have thoughts on Liam Lawson.
we might want to switch one of our drivers out and put him in. So we don't want him going anywhere either. So like all of a sudden, James Vowles is like, It seems like it came down to Mick Schumacher or Franco Colapinto. I remember Mick Schumacher. Remember him well. He's got the good eyes.
He does have the good eyes. Yeah.
Doesn't he? Mr. Eyes, they call him. People are calling him. But from out of nowhere, some rando, Franco Colapinto, he's an F2 driver from, I believe, the midfield. So they're like, Logan Sargent, you're not good enough. You're to be replaced by an F2 midfielder. Unproven. He's the one we want in the car.
Some guy. He was around. He was around this weekend. He was free. I know a guy who knows a guy. He is the Colapinto is. If we were still doing the F1 quiz on this show, man, that's exactly what the quiz would have been about this week. Tell me about Franco Colapinto. I said on Threads that he is too old to be a rookie these days. I don't know if you agree with that anymore, because isn't he 21? I mean, come on. 21.
I don't know how old he is. I know they changed the rules so that Kimi Antonelli could drive this year if they wanted him to, and they don't want him to anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know how old is too old to be a rookie these days. Wasn't Brendan Big Heart Hartley 25 when he made his debut?
That was the start of it, right? That's when it really broke. I wanted more 17-year-olds. We need more Max Verstappens in the world. Like, I want my drivers really young or really old. That's all. I want Alonso, or I want, 18, 19.
So anyway, the thing with Franco Colapinto, first of all, what a weird choice to be like, Logan Sargent, guy who's got a year and a half of experience. Nah, we don't want you. We want this other guy. Though. It also came out because everyone was like, look, Logan Sargent, he smashed the car. We had so many upgrades on that car, and we just don't know now what's going to go on because he wiped out all of our upgrades. He's gone. He's had his chances. He's not getting any better. He's gone. And then it came out that they were reaching out to Franco Colapinto the day before.
Yeah,
the day before that.
You're saying it was an inside job? Right. You're saying that they pushed a button and made Sargent
and everybody
crash.
said, but if they wanted to replace, if they were so keen to get rid of him, it would have made more sense for them to do it during the summer break. So they obviously weren't that keen to get rid of him. And I'm like, no. But they were, though, because they were talking to Liam Lawson and they were talking to Kimi Antonelli.
And then they sent a message. On the side. I wonder if maybe they saw something in, maybe someone pulled some stats and they're like, no, he's going to be great. Sounds like there's other things happening, right?
Maybe he will. I don't know. I just thought the whole situation was just really incredibly funny. And lots of, and again, lots of people coming out going, yeah, because Logan Sargent was crap. That's why they had to get rid of him. And I was like, sure, but just do it in a way that makes sense. And then like James Vowles also was sort of sticking the boot into Mick Schumacher going, yeah, look, we'll have to agree that Mick Schumacher's good, but he was never going to be great. I was like, well, yeah, but don't you want good? Isn't that why you're getting rid of Sargent? Because you think he's not good? Isn't that the
but this
problem?
is how you end up with Nico Hulkenberg racing for the rest of our lives.
He's been doing it right this year.
Yeah, you would say that.
The chance I don't know what that means, but anyway.
Because he is the chance that we might be able to still get into Formula One. It's by being around.
Stop dragging me off topic. I have a theory for why they ultimately went with Franco Colapinto.
Okay.
Not Mick Schumacher, not the other guys.
Tell me about it.
When Carlos Sainz signed for Williams, with all these rumours and speculation, he's got an exit clause. He's got an exit clause. He's got an exit clause. If Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, anybody comes knocking, he can leave. And then James Vowles was very quick to shut that down, but that didn't stop people saying, don't worry about that. There's definitely an exit clause. We just know there is.
Yeah.
I feel that they went with Franco Colapinto, even though it's only for 9 races or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like they went with him because what if Sainz leaves? We're going to need to get someone in, and he's the next guy, so we have to put him in now.
Dude from Formula 2 definitely deserves a drive.
I'm not saying he's a bad driver. I don't know. I've got no idea. He drove really well this week.
So much. He did drive really well. It's always hard to tell with these F2 drivers. The teams are differently abled as far as like budget and how good the cars are and management and all these kinds of things, right? It's always hard to tell.
It just annoys me when Vowles and the team say one thing and then it emerges, oh, that wasn't it at all. You're full of shit.
It's really unlike Formula One to bend the truth like that.
Yeah.
It's so unlike, right?
Backdoor deals and deception going on.
Yeah, it's getting worse because they're their own media organization, and the journalists don't need the journalists as much anymore because they can just say their own things and put it out through their own channels directly to the consumer market.
And they can just tell all the people on threads and online who are monetizing their follower base to change their name, and they can't monetize their brands anymore because they've got the registered trademark in their name. Outrageous.
Yeah, because they don't need those people. They can just do it themselves.
But Zach, there were some more driver announcements. Do you want us to get us into some of those? Because these are pretty spicy, I reckon.
Yeah, it turns out that Colapinto's driving for everyone next year. He's going to take turns. And that they've actually, the good news next year, right, is that we've actually reached our cap of the amount of drivers allowed from one country. So obviously Daniel Ricciardo will be racing for Red Bull next year.
Oh, obviously.
They love him. He's the only guy who's pencil him in as a good number 2 driver for Max Verstappen. I think that's true. Genuinely, I think that's what's going to happen because I think they're just going to be like, you know what? If the car's good, Daniel Ricciardo can probably bring it home 2 or 3 positions behind Max, and that'll be good enough for everything to be fine next
There'll be
year.
a very, very strong case to make for that when Red Bull finishes 3rd in the constructors this year.
Yeah, and they won't miss that. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo brings that carsales.com.au money. I know it's not the Carlos Slim billion money from that Perez brings, but it's fine. And whatever the Optus media money or KO, who knows?
Okay, so Ricciardo goes to Red Bull.
Ricciardo goes to Red Bull. Boom.
Come back to the cap.
Yeah, well, they're only allowed 3 Australians in any sport at any one time.
There's Piastri and Ricciardo and
Jack Doohan, right?
Whoa!
Oh my God! Taking the spot that Oscar Piastri was meant to take. At Alpine. Did you see that video from Oscar Piastri's mum, whose name I can't remember right now, who was on somebody else's podcast, talking about how she found, how Oscar told her that he got his F1 drive? Did you see this? Okay, well, shortcut is that she's like, oh my God, you got your drive. That's amazing. Like, what color are we wearing next year? Is it blue? Because they all thought it was going to be at Alpine.
Yeah, right.
He's like, no. She's like, I don't know. Like, what? Oh, God, like green or something? It's some random team. He's like, no.
Oh my God, red. And they're like,
no.
You've overhyped it too much.
You went
now.
too high? Yeah, too much. Just a little over the top. Bring it back a shade. And she was like, orange. And he's like, no, papaya. But almost. And she was like, oh, that's great. Oh, no. He's like, I know. She's like, oh, no. He's like, yeah, Mum, I know. Gosh. She's like, but Daniel. And he was like, I know. We all love Daniel. It's going to be bad for the. She's like, oh, that's sad. He's like, it's sad for my brand and sad for the media. This is it. That's why I like Oscar, because he thinks about the total package and he's like, it's going to win some people over about that one. But I just love that his mum was disappointed in the same moment as being happy about it. And now we got But thankfully, that slot at Alpine is going to go to your friend and mine, Jack Doohan. Didn't know he could drive four wheels because his dad only drove on two. That is
Martin
right.
Brundle called him Mick Doohan by mistake. Great, it's going to be great to see Mick Doohan in the race now. I'm like, really? That would be great.
Father and son team.
Father and
Why
son
can't we have
rule.
that? I mean, LeBron James's kids at the Lakers now. Like, why can't we
really?
have two guys from the same team and family at the same team? I suppose that could happen. If how old are Fernando Alonso's kids? He could get that organized.
Does he have kids?
I'm guessing so, right? He's 40s. He's Formula One drivers.
I'm not saying he's not old enough to have kids. I just don't know that he does.
All right. Do you want to
That he
bet?
knows of.
Fernando
So Jack
Alonso.
Doohan coming in. So this was my plan.
Yes.
Similar to yours. Daniel Ricciardo goes to Red Bull. Mick Doohan comes in. Boom. We've got Ricciardo, Piastri, and Doohan. And then Liam Lawson slots in at VCARB.
Basically
And then we get
Australian.
Brendan Hartley into stake. It's the ANZ takeover.
It's the Anzacs.
Yes, we're bringing it back.
Or the Anzruks, Australian New Zealand
They're
Racing
confusingly similar flags. But the other driver announcement. This is the thing. We're going to have Oliver Behrman at Haas. We're going to have Jack Doohan at Alpine, and a third rookie season, Kimi Antonelli, slotting in at Mercedes. The worst kept secret, quite literally the worst kept secret. As in the race
Even I knew
before, Toto was like, "We're going to have a really strong car next year for our drivers, George and Kimi," and they're like,
Well, something one.
"Did you actually just say that?"
Well, you know, he's
Hypothetically, if it is Kimi, I don't know. But it is.
You think that's why they brought Kimi
It is.
Raikkonen to the race this weekend, just to be like, look, there is another Kimi. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Just, I wasn't lying. Could have been
Yep.
anybody.
Could
And then
have been
Kimi
anyone.
Antonelli ran in FP1 and in solidarity with Logan Sargent crashed and put it into the wall.
Yeah, which is really awkward, right? Would you, if you were put in by the team for FP1?
Would I crash? Yes. Would I fit in the car? Probably not.
No, hey, would you go all out and like try to prove yourself, or would you just be like, I'm gonna get it round, I'm gonna give the team the information it needs, gonna get all my laps in?
I would set a new lap time for slowest lap. I would be like Boris Johnson poodling around in that Formula E car that time.
Yep.
So slow. And I'd probably stall it many times.
Yeah, I think I would definitely err on the side of just like, look, I'm such a good boy. I did all the laps you needed me to.
Such a good boy, please.
I'm such a good boy. And look, I got it home. Because you're not having, he knew he was going to be the driver next year. He didn't have to get out there and prove himself,
Oh, he just got unlucky. He just got a bit of a swapper on and ended up in, like, it was just bad luck. And then, I mean, other drivers were slipping off and sliding off, and safety car crashed in the same spot, which was sort of funny and worrying at the same time.
Nah, because they're out there trying to prove to everyone that they could be as fast every time.
Hey, watch this.
Look, we can be faster than Logan Sargent. Who's left?
Probably because of the very excited climate that Formula One is in right now. But the chat is very chirpy this week. But I've got this nice comment here that I wanted to call out about the rookies. A tool asking, will we get a realistic comparison between all the rookies, considering two of them are in shitbox as well?
Great point. Yeah.
This is true. But I mean, they're still going to be driving against, proven, seasoned drivers. So, I mean, we'll get that's obviously in F1, that's usually the best comparison you get. But we'll get a comparison between them.
Yeah, exactly. It's I suppose Kimi's going to have a tough one at Mercedes because the car is kind of up in the air, and he's not going to have too long to bed in. Doing it at Alpine, that car's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And where's Behrman going? God,
Haas. Against Ocon.
Oh, Ocon. I forgot about him. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a nothing team, isn't it?
But, I mean, Alpine, Haas, I mean, it's like the forgettable teams.
The forgettables. Really. Yeah, but I suppose, it's a good question. This was always the thing with Russell, and it still continues with Albon, right? People are like, well, Albon is really freaking amazing. It's like, yeah, is he though?
Hard to tell.
It's really hard to tell. And I think it's still hard to tell with Russell. I think he's really good. Obviously, he's really good. Is that Mercedes just a bit of trouble? Yeah, it is. So it's always hard to tell with these rookies. Even the last time we think about great driver in crap car, it's probably Leclerc and Sauber is the one that jumps out. And even then, it's not like he was like bringing home race wins or anything, you know. And before that, Verstappen in the Toro Rosso, when I think it was even probably a closer, better car, the classic, you know, do it in the rain, do it in the wet situation. I just think Formula One is giving chances to these guys earlier than ever. Like, why is Kimi Antonelli going to Mercedes? Like, that is very unusual, I would say. There's lots of good drivers on the market. There's big drivers on the market. Why can't they go and get, like, I think Formula One in years past would have just gone, yep, there's Carlos Sainz, sticking them in the Merc, we're all good to go. Maybe this is the change now that we're seeing, that some of these bigger teams are like, oh, let's chance it on these guys, you know, these young guys. We'll put them in there, see what happens.
So, I mean, far be it from me to praise David Croft, but he was asking interesting questions of Toto Wolff, saying, you got George Russell, you got Kimi Antonelli in there. But what happens if Max Verstappen becomes available? Because you've been very vocal in saying that you want him there. And then Toto gave a convincingly political answer by saying, no, this is our driver lineup. I want them to be settled. I hope they're there for a long time. But I just feel like if Verstappen became available, he would find a way. So,
Absolutely.
Again, not to heap praise on anyone, but Nico Rosberg was saying it's bad news for Russell because when he was driving against Hamilton, it's like, well, Hamilton's the GOAT. If Russell beats Hamilton, everyone would just be like, well, Hamilton's lost it. Hamilton's not good anymore. And then if Russell loses to this guy, they'll be like, well, Russell was never any good. So it's like lose-lose. Like those two comparisons, the one of the best there's ever been and someone completely new and unproven. No. If you smash them, it's like, well, that's what we expected. And then if you lose to them, it's like, well, how crap are you? Exactly.
It's also really hard to establish like number one driver status at a team that's not winning. Like he needs to be the guy who, whenever Mercedes are having a good weekend, like he needs to be the one who's having the good weekend. Otherwise, it'll be Antonelli who's like, oh yeah, and Antonelli was also really good. I'm like, oh yeah. That was it.
I mean, there's been teams that have taken big chances like this and been rewarded, like bringing in Lewis Hamilton, like bringing in Max Verstappen. Obviously, Toto's hoping that Antonelli is like a next Verstappen type young prodigy that comes in, has success before he turns 20, and then maybe wins 8 championships in a row. Who knows? But that's what they're hoping for. That's what every team principal is hoping for.
True, except Ferrari, who never do it.
Yeah, that's true. Should we get on to some more stories?
Yeah, hit me with these last little bits. These tidbits.
Well, I just felt like I knew that all of this was going to be lengthy, and I was like, let's just get through a couple of quick things at the end.
Yeah. I didn't know this about K-Mag.
We were asked in the chat about this as well. What do you think about the Magnussen race ban? So this is hilarious. Kevin Magnussen finally crosses the threshold of enough super license penalty points to
appear on the podcast.
To be to get a race ban. He becomes the dubious honor of being the first driver to do that.
What are the implications of this? Do they just not race a car?
But no, they get to race a different driver. He can't race.
Who are they going to put in?
So Oliver Behrman's going to step in.
That's right. Of course.
So, but
more bad than man.
Magnussen was even saying like, this is harsh. This was just like a touching wheels through a track. Like it didn't even affect either of our positions. It was almost a nothing incident. Yeah. And I get it. It's harsh to be banned for a race for that one. But the fact is, you just got 2 penalty points. The problem was all those other ones, mate.
Yeah. It's funny how they stack like that.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have known this was coming and maybe not pulled moves like that.
Yeah, like all the other drivers managed to not get all the points. I think it's fair. It's annoying.
This is really the system. This is how the system works. And everyone's been complaining for ages that Magnussen is like a menace, driving into people on purpose, unsportsman driving. It's like, well, they should be glad that he got a race ban.
Yeah, exactly right. And his team will be really unhappy.
He's not going to be at Haas next year. He probably won't be in the sport next year.
Formula One next year.
He got his first points finish. That's the irony. Got a 10-second penalty. Still got his first points finish for the year.
Yeah.
Looking
forward to doing the post-mortem on K-Mag's career.
We'll do that, and then he'll come back 2 years later driving for, I don't even know, high-tech F1.
Straight out of Norway or something.
Him and Mazepin. The dream teams back together.
Wow. Hey, we'll always have Melbourne 2000 and whatever. Like they came second in those
true.
beautiful silver.
We probably saw his best drive.
That's so true. We saw his best drive.
Another story.
Speaking of
Alpine.
Mercedes, McLaren and stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Alpine.
Yeah.
No, that's
so,
right.
I mean, there's been rumors about like what's going on with this team because they're like Renault engines, and then they're like, you know what's bad about our car is the Renault engines. We should get rid of them and get some Mercedes engines. And it's like, well, isn't that sort of you? Like the whole point of being in Formula One is you're supposed to be advertising how great your cars are. And what you're really going to be doing is advertising how great Mercedes are. And I mean, but there's strong rumors that they're just trying to survive until there's a bit of sale. I mean, this is the wilder part of the speculation, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Alpine just sells off to someone else. And I don't know if you saw practice, but Nico Rosberg just casually threw out there during his commentary for practice.
I don't think
I got an email asking if I wanted to buy into Alpine. They were like, what are you talking about? It's like, I got an email, just a cheeky email. Just the way you do. Your grocery order's ready.
Yeah.
Electricity bill. Do you want to buy a Formula One
your cable
team?
package or buy a Formula One team? Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think it's half or a third or something of the investment in that team comes from, you know, the like Ryan Reynolds of the world and so on, and sports player Travis Kelce or whoever that guy is. And then they want Nico Rosberg to buy something, and it's like, okay. So I mean,
player?
What
Travis
was that?
Kelce? Did you say sports player Travis Kelce?
Did I?
Sports players, great.
I meant sports players like that guy.
Yeah,
Travis Kelce.
I like sports players.
He's a sports player. Doesn't he play sports?
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course. I've just never heard that term before. I think it's great. Maybe sports people, but sports players makes them sound like they're also like quite artistic. Like we're the players, like anyone in a play is a player, you know.
He's a real player.
We're the sports players. Are we just not on the normal curve of Renault as a Formula One team? You know, we're not going to be in Formula One. We come back to Formula One. Look, the French government's really involved. We love Renault. Maybe we're not quite Renault anymore. Maybe
we don't like that.
Renault parts. Oh, Cyril Abiteboul's gone. He's gone off to do other things. Now we are Alpine. And then
I was thinking of Cyril Abiteboul. I
I
don't know why.
Fun to say. We were doing our warm-up exercises pre-show. It should have been
That's the one.
Cyril Abiteboul.
And Eric Boulier.
Oh, very Bouillet.
These are just names.
These are good. Men can just sit around naming Formula One guys. I'll tell you what.
Maurizio Arrivabene. So look, I mean, maybe if they can get, I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen Nico Rosberg types to pitch in, I don't know, $2 million each.
Yeah.
Don't need Renault anymore.
I hope it all goes fine for Jack Doohan's sake. Who's the other guy? Pierre Gasly still? Another also ran. Why isn't he at Mercedes? He's a good driver.
I don't know if there's any other short stories that you wanted to touch on, any other thing bouncing around in the old F1 noggin.
F1 Liberty Media, aren't they buying MotoGP? Soon they'll buy all the motorsports. Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Oh my gosh.
That's interesting. I find that really good and interesting. No,
okay,
there's nothing else. Well, because, I mean, we've been recording for a little while now. There's been a lot to talk about. This has been a real good, energetic injection of
energy.
Like F1 being its F1 self again. I feel like, you know, it's
really, F1 its best right now.
These are the times, people. You've been waiting for them. There's lots of people competing for the races. The racing is really interesting and good. It was actually good driving yesterday as well. Monza doesn't take too long. It's not a really long race.
It was snappy. You know? Did we break the record for we must not have, because everyone would be screaming about it.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how close we were to like the record for fastest ever race.
Yeah.
Here's a tip. Instead of 53 laps, just make it 51 laps.
Yeah.
Just knock this over.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get this out of the way.
Lap counts as well. 50 laps. You know? Yep. These are the good times, Rod. And we're off to Baku, one of my favorite races. I love how it gets really wide before it gets really narrow. I really like that about Baku. It's like 7 lanes wide down that main straight. And then when you go around the castle, it's like half a car's width.
Yeah.
So good.
It goes from so wide to so you cannot make a single possible mistake. It's one of those tracks that just really is so varied that it's it really tests drivers, and that's why it often turns up such bonkers races. And then we've got Singapore, which maybe is less bonkers, but always fun, and it's a beautiful spectacle. So we've got a
Another
couple of races to look forward to, and then we're going to learn. We've just come out of the summer break. There's a 3-week gap after Singapore.
A 3-week gap after
Yeah.
Singapore? No.
And then I think there's 2 races back to back, and then another 3-week gap. It's crazy the
What?
calendar this year. They've
No.
not done well.
That's too weird.
It's a bit weird, I guess, but I mean, it gives us a
whole
nice
month.
little slot to do we can do a podcast right in the middle of all that. But
Yeah. There'd be enough
I mean,
time
I
for
just-
Adrian to draw some squiggles, get Red Bull back up there. That's what'll happen.
I know that there's big things that seem so big that people are like hyper focused on. Let's just say Lando Norris. But I think it's important to reflect on what a great season we're having. Like truly one of the best that we've had in a long time.
Let's finish on this then, Rod. How do you think it's going to go? How do you think it's going to finish up? Who's winning the championship?
So
At this point?
are we making grand predictions right now?
The grandest. Grand Budapest Ho prediction.
Grand Budapest Hotel predictions.
Pressure.
I mean, I would say my head says Lando Norris will win the championship by
Your head or your heart? Which one was that?
my head.
Wow.
My head. Lando Norris will win the championship by 25 points with Oscar Piastri just a few points behind Max Verstappen. That's what my head says. Guess what my heart says?
Max Verstappen.
Oscar,
love it.
baby, bring it
Oscar,
home.
baby. Oh my God. It's going to have to be so good. It's going to have to
It's
win
going to
every
be a
race.
3-way fight
Forever.
into the last race between Verstappen, Oscar, and Norris.
Oscar's only going to make up 106 points.
But here's the
Max
thing.
is not going to finish any races.
There's 8 races left, and Oscar is 40-something points behind Norris. So he's only got to beat him by 5 points on average every race. That's doable.
Yeah.
1 DNF for Norris and 1 win for Piastri, and it's game on between those two.
And then game over shortly after.
And then game over, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but I forgot to mention that Verstappen DNFs 7 times in a row.
Yeah, exactly. They keep turning up with just not enough wheels. It's crazy over there.
Crazy.
No, they're doing weird shit. Okay, I'm glad you
there's-
took that
I
really
mean-
seriously. What about the constructors?
No.
Championship?
Oh, well,
Oh, mate.
constructors, it'll be McLaren, and then Ferrari, and then Red Bull.
Man, they'll just fire everyone. If that happens, if Red Bull finish third in the constructors championships, I think that Christian Horner will get fired.
Oh, well, that's a good call.
Yeah. If they,
Well, I mean-
they finish third, they're going to be like behind the shitbox of Ferrari, behind this team that doesn't even know when its own ass is on fire. Come on.
Yeah.
I think they'll just.
I think
they'll
if
just get rid of him.
Verstappen still wants to stay, then yeah, Horner's in trouble. I think if
And then-
Verstappen leaves, Horner will be fine.
And then Horner will go off and get Andretti into Formula One for them.
Whoa.
He'll go become their principal guy, and they'll be like,
He's
"I know
principal
what
guy.
it is." Yeah, principal man. Principal.
Okay. But drivers, what's your prediction for drivers?
It's really tricky.
It is hard, right?
I think this is just a wobble from Red Bull and Max, and I think that they'll work out. They're really good at working out why other cars are really good, and it's a big lead. And we just aren't seeing the crashes and the safety cars, and like even Croft joked about it this weekend. It's like, oh, but they could be, saving back for the safety car, and like Brundle was like, this won't happen, or flip those 2 guys, it doesn't matter. But like it just they just don't really crash like that anymore. It could happen in Baku and Singapore, but then you go to those US races where they're like on like the world's largest planes, like there's no crashes ever, it seems. So it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be Max. It'll be closer than we all thought it would be, but that'll be really good. And then I think McLaren will smash everyone on the constructors standings now. I just don't think Oscar's the kind of guy who would get into a fight with Norris and like will do anything bad. And I think that Zach's got them on short enough leashes that they will come home in the points all the time for time immemorial.
I would really like to see Lando Norris claim pole and still be leading at the end of the first lap. That would be really nice. He's done it 7 times. He's never once. 7 poles.
Really?
Never once has he finished the first lap leading. Never once.
That is a
I would
mad
like to see him break that before the end of the year.
Well, don't know. I mean, I suppose
Am I
past
dreaming too
performance
big?
it's not an indicator of future performance, but I hope not. Christ.
It's got to happen eventually.
It will. It'll happen. It'll happen eventually. I like that Oscar made sure it didn't know. That was fun.
My plan is working perfectly.
Oh, I just don't know what it is about Lando, but he's really irking me. And it's not got nothing. It's just, I don't know. I used to be so happy for him, and I love that he cried on the podium. And I think I do like he's all right, but I just don't, on the have a beer with him scale, he's really dropping down the points every weekend. I don't know what it is. Not interested.
Yeah, I don't know either. I feel like he's like giving less of himself, and the bit that he is giving is maybe not that, like you say, it's not that sort of touchy feeling, nice, glowing kind of bit that he's giving of himself.
Not as fun, maybe anymore.
It's not as fun. Yeah. Maybe his stakes are too high.
Putting too much pressure on himself. Seriously, mate. God, relax.
You should watch the McLaren TikToks. I mean, they're having a whole bunch of fun on there.
Oh, really?
Piastri jumping into his hand and everything. It's so good.
Everybody's just decided that they can do whatever they like with their brands on TikTok. It's really fun. And Threads as well. And Threads. But all the brands just being like,
yeah, I know.
Access.
I should
no one knew.
I should call out that over the break. I had a special guest on for a quick little chat with Lindsay, who is at Legally Motorsport, to talk about legal issues. One of them being the crackdown from Liberty Media on content creators who have F1 in their names and trying to launch a brand with F1 in their names, and they got sent cease and desist letters and stuff. And I mean, it was one of those things where I realized as I was talking, I'm making the opposite point of what I actually think here, because I was like, it's so great now how the teams and drivers can just make a TikTok from the paddock and send it out. I'm like, but actually I hate all those when they play all those stupid little games, and it's basically just like turned into nothing to do with racing whatsoever. It's just you're a famous racer. Now, what are the ingredients for a spaghetti bolognese? Go. And it's like, this is what we're doing now?
Well, it's just got to make more content than ever before.
But there's just too much of that stuff, and it's just gone too far. I would like to see a correction where it just comes a little bit back to racing. Maybe get them to race something. There's an idea.
No, because what all the teams need, and what it's the same for every brand, is we want you thinking about us all the time. Every single engagement is another engagement we wish you'll have with our brand and our people, and not, another sport or another musician or anything. No, we want to own everything.
Too manufactured.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, it is. You can see straight through it that it is there for content, engagement purposes, and not because it's genuinely interesting.
That's why I don't like it.
Yeah, yep. Well, you got a good bullshinometer for that stuff. Are you going to go? I have one question to finish on, Rod. Are you going to go and see Megalopolis in cinema?
It's not really on the cards, but maybe. I'm a big fan of Frank Coppola.
Boy,
is there an F1 tangent here, or
no? I was just
asking.
Just asking.
I'll tell you what movie I really saw that I cannot stop thinking about. Kinds of Kindness. Really blew me away, and it's not for everybody. But man, I think that's a class. Who was the director? That's Yorgos Lanthimos on that one. Emma Stone is in it. Jesse Plemons is in it.
Does he only work with
Willem Dafoe. If you like strange movies, I just think it's really masterful.
Did funny things. But the other weird one with Dafoe and Emma Stone, right?
Poor Things.
Yeah, I like
this. This is like the weird vibe of that, but then the storytelling is really twisted. Where Poor Things is very straightstraightforward.
Yeah.
This is really like heaps of weird twists and things that you've got to put together and unexplained. I think he's a great filmmaker.
Yeah, but he just does so many. Like, he feels like another one every year. His brain must be chock-a-block.
Yeah, and he's done ones that you've never heard of. You don't even think of.
I haven't watched The Lobster.
Oh, The Lobster, that was the first one I saw. I love that.
Yeah, I should watch that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're moving into fall, and we're moving into autumn, and we're moving into scary season, Rod. It's all about the scary films, so...
The Lobster's not a scary film.
No, exactly. So we're allowed to watch scary movies.
Great. Oh, we're into movie talk. Okay. Oh, are you on Letterboxd? I'm on Letterboxd.
I should get on Letterboxd.
That's the easiest way to... you should get on Letterboxd and like every time you watch a movie, just be like,
I went and saw Blink Twice on the weekend. That was good. I could have reviewed that.
You could have. And then I wouldn't need to ask you at the end of a podcast what you watched. I'd just know.
I mean, we could, we're allowed to chat outside the podcast, but I thought, give everyone a flavor for what your weird tastes are. Give you an opportunity.
We're keeping up our form of 1 hour of Formula One talk followed up with half an hour of just waffle. But I mean, maybe we could take some of this off air, maybe. But but it's our responsibility to point out that we're on Threads. I'll put up a card at the end of the podcast if you're watching, but it's got all the links to it. But we're on Threads, where the website is superlicense.fm, and this week the FM stands for, Zach?
Formula Movies.
Formula Movies. Films movies. And the film is graciously supported by our wonderful Patreons who chip in a couple of dollars every week to keep the lights on and stop us from sleeping beneath the underpass.
Exactly.
And without them, truly we'd be going into the red every single week, and we hate that. Hate that.
The underpass sounds like it would be something that happens in Formula One. Oh, it's called the underpass, but it's not. There's overtake and undertake and undercut and overcut, but there is no overpass or underpass. Huh.
I love getting into arguments online on, say, Threads, where people are like, look at this absolute amateur. Like, you know, you're only following the sport because you saw Drive to Survive last year and now you're here doing a podcast or whatever. Stop posting. And I'm like, just couldn't be more wrong, man.
If only they knew.
I try to tell them and they, surprise, surprise, they don't listen. So we're on all those places. You should go and give us a rating and review on iTunes or the Apple Podcast place or wherever you happen to be listening to this. And if you can't do that, just go and tell a mate. Oh,
exactly. You know how easy it is to share a Spotify link these days? Whoa. Get it tattooed on your forehead and ask people to scan it. It's that easy. These fans call themselves fans.
Yeah, so-called fans. Thanks, so-called fans, for not getting tattoos. We would have to do something. If someone gets the Super License logo tattooed on their body, we have to like give them something. So what do we give them?
I'll come out and make you breakfast.
Yeah, what are you going to make? What are you good at making?
I can make eggs, scrambled or poached, or fried eggs. I'll poach an egg. I'll make you a coffee as well in whatever style you would enjoy. And then with a kiss, always delivered with a little straight on your forehead, just a little bit of love,
right on the tip of the nose, just a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in a weird way.
Whatever video game you want to play with, I'll do that as well.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
you have to play video games with you.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Right. Okay, Zach. It's been amazing to see you and talk to you, and we'll try and schedule one. I don't know, probably on the other side of the next few races. But
I
don't know if you have any more travel or anything you're going to be doing.
It's done over. No, summer's done. We're into the cold, hard, scary movie season.
Bunkering down with scary movies. Got it. Okay. Well, look, follow Zach on Letterboxd. Let us feel free to judge and berate his choice of movies and his ratings of them. And I mean, while you're at it, you can berate and judge mine. It's not going to worry me because I don't care what other people think about things.
You have never cared about when anybody
really
thinks
sums me
about
up as a
music
person.
or taste.
It's straight down the middle of the road, and I can't be veered. I can't be swayed at all. But look, until the next few races, when Lando Norris pulls ahead by 60 points in the Drivers' Championship, until then, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
And I've got to work out how to end the show. So thanks for listening. And until then, we will do this. Oh, it's happening, Zach. We get to say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Funny.